Right now you're listening to All Talk with Kevin Deitz on 760 WJR and on the WJR app.
Well, as Donald Trump prepares for his second term, his administration's taking shape with significant appointments aimed at reinforcing his hardline policies on immigration, the environment, U.S. foreign relations, and more. We just talked about Tom Homan as the border czar. Sounds like he's going to be tough. A tough guy. Susie Wiles, we talked a little bit about last week as White House Chief of Staff. No nonsense person who's going to decide who gets to spend time with Donald Trump and who doesn't. Alyssa Stefanik, UN Ambassador. Lee Zeldin for EPA Administrator. Very interesting with Trump's energy policy, drill baby drill, and his talk of making sure that EV mandates go away. And then now the talk today, Marco Rubio. Will he be the Secretary of State? It's not a done deal, but it certainly seems that way. How will Marco Rubio handle Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to Israel and Iran? Can he convince Benjamin Netanyahu to move to a two-state solution? I don't know. You also have Russia and Ukraine, where he'll have to deal with Putin and Zelensky, and China, of course, which we talk about all the time. So very, very big roles being filled in the first few days or week since Donald Trump has been elected. Let's bring in Dave Dulio, Director of the Center of Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Even though it's still speculation, the Marco Rubio thing is really, really interesting. That is a big job. We talk about Antony Blinken all the time, and whether the moves that he's making are working or not. How do you see Marco Rubio in this role?
Well, it certainly is the first of the, let's say, big four appointments, state, defense, treasury, and attorney general that Trump has announced. And I think it's an interesting pick because, number one, he should sail through Senate confirmation. Usually sitting senators get the support of their colleagues. I also think that he has been a staunch supporter of Israel and has really backed whatever Israel has wanted to do in this recent war with Hamas. And, he's a hardliner on Iran. And I think that is, as you mentioned, it's following with what Trump said during the campaign.
He's a little... when it comes to Ukraine, he's cautious with Ukraine, and Donald Trump, I think, was that way a little bit too. You remember Tucker Carlson was when he was still at Fox News, he said we shouldn't be giving money to Ukraine. These are not great people over in Ukraine, and everyone was like, "What are you talking about? We're with Ukraine." Will Zelensky have to put in a little work under Trump and Rubio if he gets the job?
I think so, and again, Rubio in his comments and votes on the topic has reflected a more skeptical approach to the Ukraine aid than many others on Capitol Hill, that's for sure.
China's been flexing, doing military drills, showing Taiwan that if they want to make a move, they could make a move at any time. Do they step back a little bit and see how things play out with Donald Trump, or do they stay aggressive? They've made it clear they want to be the leaders in the economy and the military in this world.
So this is always, I think, the interesting element to Trump on the international stage, right? He ran in 2016 and governed in a way that he had said he would on the campaign trail. He wanted to keep people guessing, right? And I think that will continue. So I think we're going to see a bit of a dance between the U.S. and China and other potential adversaries in terms of how they relate to each other. And just because Trump might signal one thing one day doesn't necessarily mean he's going to follow through with that, or he might even, change course on the next.
Let's talk about Lee Zeldin for EPA. He has no real experience in that area, and it's going to be a big job. It'll be really important here in Detroit as people watch what happens with the auto industry and EV mandates and whatnot.
Certainly, and Trump has also talked about emissions and those sorts of things. I think it's been interesting to hear Zeldin talk in the last few days about what the priorities are for him at EPA, and of course, EVs, emissions, energy security. And that's all well and good, right? But it strikes me that this is likely to be a combined approach or a team effort on these issues, because we are also going to have the Secretary of Energy, who's yet to be announced. But I would imagine you'll see quite a team effort between Zeldin and whoever takes over at Energy.
Oh, you don't think Jennifer Granholm's going to keep that post? What is the role of the UN ambassador? What is that job that Elise Stefanik is going to be taking over?
Well, it's pure and simple to go and represent the United States at this international body in New York, and I think again we're going to see, and the U.S. sits on the Security Council and has a major role there, so that's going to be a big part of her job. I think Stefanik is another one who has been a very staunch supporter of Israel. She's really taken a vocal role in challenging anti-Semitism on college campuses. I imagine you'll see her take a similar stance in New York when she's at the UN. So I think that, again, Israel, Hamas, that is a huge issue in that body when it comes to human rights and other elements. So I think, we're going to see that position take a major role in how she approaches that job.
Donald Trump has always been really clear that he thinks other countries need to do more, spend more, do more. Will she have to deal with that at all in that role?
I think that depends on what what the president prioritizes, right? I mean, I think we have to, again, always realize that the orders come from the top, right? And I think that if he wants to press that issue as he did previously in terms of, hey, look, these other countries need to pony up, and it can't just be the U.S. paying the way or footing the bill, then that's what she'll do.
And Tom Homan, we have about a minute left, but it sounds like he is a very serious guy about executing Donald Trump's plan at the border.
Very serious, I think, is a great way to put it. He is certainly focused, at least in his previous service. He's got, as you know, a lengthy track record with these issues. I think it's important to note that he was named Border Czar, which is an informal title, right? It's not like director of the EPA. So importantly, right, unless he gets some fancy title, he is not going to have to go through Senate confirmation like many of these other folks. And I think that's a strategic move on the part of the president-elect.
And maybe a knock at the former border czar who says she wasn't a border czar at the same time. Dave Giulio, political science professor at Oakland University, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Kevin.
When we come back, we'll talk with Peter Meyer, former congressman. You're listening to All Talk on WJR.